About Dawn. Dawn Babalo Ballister II was an awesome tracker, a dinosaur speaker, and the greatest Bronese hero that ever lived. But Dawn's memoirs look back to when she was a very ordinary girl and finding it hard to be a hero. A note from Dawn. There were giants when I was a girl. There were great, grim, sky-reaping theropods that stalked the sun-baked plains like walking thunderstorms. Little, feathered, scuttling raptors that hunted down the mice and rats in well-organized packs. Preposterously huge monoxauruses that were 50 times as big as a mammoth and who shook the very foundations of the earth just by breathing. You will have to take my word for it, for the giants are retreating into the deep, forgotten canyons, and they may soon be only shadows in the stone. Nobody knows what is happening. They are wandering back into the great wilds from whence they came, leaving not a scale, not a claw, in the red earth for the women of the future to remember them by. So in order that these magnificent, terrible creatures should not be forgotten, I will tell this true story from my childhood. I was not the sort of girl who could tame a predator with the mere pointing of a bronze spear. I was not a natural at the heroism business. I had to work at it. This is the story of becoming a hero the hard way. Chapter 1. The Bronze Initiation. The heat in the village of Bron was a physical weight, pressing the smell of dry clay and charcoal into our skin. I stood on the great terrace, my sandals shifting in the red dust. Today was the great stride, the day we transitioned from girls to warriors. To the Bronese, a woman's worth was measured by the length of her spear and the ferocity of the dinosaur she captured. My mother, Queen Ballister I, paced the terrace like a caged raptor. The giant does not respect your fear. She barked at the line of 30 girls. It respects the bronze in your hand. Beside me, Vespera was already shadowboxing with her spear, her muscles rippling under her teal tunic. I, meanwhile, was hiding my thrum pipe, a hollow bone fitted with bronze reeds, behind my back. I didn't want to conquer. I wanted to listen. When my mother looked at me, her eyes weren't angry. They were sad, which was much worse. Chapter 2. The Falling Star. That night, the sky didn't just go dark, it went silent. Then, a roar erupted that felt like the earth was being torn in half. A Gymnosaurus, a blur of iridescent teal and silver, crashed through our mud-brick fortifications. It wasn't a raid for food. The beast was panicked, running from a shadow larger than the village itself. While the warriors fumbled with heavy nets that the beast simply shredded, I ran to the North Tower. There sat my secret, the heavy bowler launcher. It was a massive wooden frame reinforced with bronze gears. I didn't look for the blur of the dinosaur. I closed my eyes and listened for the thud-thud-thud of its heavy bipedal stride. I waited for the rhythm to hit my heart, then pulled the lever. A sickening crack echoed through the night. The village thought the ghost giant had escaped, but I heard the crash of a body hitting the canyon floor. Chapter 3. The Canyon of Whispers. I tracked the trail of teal blood for 3 days until I reached the Canyon of Whispers. There, wedged in a narrow crevice, was the Gymnosaurus. She was breathtaking. Scales like polished jewels and eyes of liquid amber. But she was pinned. Her tail, that long, stiff horizontal beam that acted as a counterweight for her massive head, was crushed under a boulder. I drew my bronze dagger. This was the moment. I could take her head and finally see pride in my mother's eyes, but as I stepped closer, the dinosaur didn't snarl. She let out a soft, rhythmic click, a vibration I had felt in my dreams. I realized then that she wasn't a monster. She was a language I hadn't learned yet. I put my dagger away and began to dig. Chapter 4. The Art of the Rumble. For weeks I lived a double life. By day, I was the village failure. By night, I was a student of the wild. I brought haunches of meat to the canyon and played my thrum pipe. I named her Scaleless. I discovered that the giants didn't speak with their throats as much as their bodies. I began scratching symbols into bronze plates. A low hum meant peace, a tail flick meant hunger, and a series of clicks meant friend. I learned that Scaleless's anatomy was a miracle of balance. Without her tail held high and stiff, she couldn't even stand. We weren't just two different species. We were two outcasts finding a new way to exist. Chapter 5. The Bronze Balance. A theropod with a dragging tail is a dead theropod. Scales's injury meant she couldn't hunt or run. I spent my nights at the village forge, borrowing scraps of bronze to build the balance harness. It was an articulated sleeve of hammered bronze rings that clamped to the base of her tail, providing the weight she needed to stay level. The first time I buckled it on, she nearly knocked me into the canyon wall. But then, she found her center. She stood tall, her head and tail forming a perfect horizontal line over her powerful legs. She lowered her head to me, an invitation I never expected. I climbed onto her shoulders, my heart racing, and for the first time, we moved as one. Chapter 6. The Secret Stride. While Vespera and the others were being taught to strike with spears, I was teaching my friends Fern and Gale the soft touch. We learned that these bipedal giants responded to vibrations and weight shifts, not pain. We practiced riding in secret, our bodies moving in a rhythmic dance with the dinosaurs' long, bird-like strides. We weren't mastering them, we were partnering with them. The red dust of the plains became our playground, and the stiff tail stance became our secret strength. Chapter 7. The Trial of the Great Arena. The final day of the initiation arrived. The Great Arena was a circle of red sand packed with the women of Bron. Vespera entered first, dragging a muzzled raptor on a bronze chain. The crowd roared for her victory. Then came my turn. I walked in with no spear and no chain. My mother's face was a mask of shame. "Where is your capture, Dawn?" she asked. I simply raised my thrumppipe and blew a single long note. Scales leaped over the 30-foot walls, her bronze harness gleaming like a star. She didn't attack. She walked to me and lowered her head. I stood on her shoulders, unchained and free. The silence in the arena was terrifying. My mother, fearing this witchcraft, ordered the guards to seize us. Chapter 8. The Monarch Rises. The arrest was cut short by a sound that made the ocean itself scream. The Monarchosaurus, a mountain-sized aquatic theropod, rose from the bay. It was a creature of myth, its scales as thick as bronze shields. The village's great harpoon was fired, but the bronze tip shattered against the giant's chest. The Monarchosaurus let out a roar that shattered the mud-brick houses of Bron. The warriors fell back. Their spears were toothpicks against a god. The village was seconds away from being crushed into the dust. Chapter 9. The Battle of the Red Dust. I broke Scales out of her cage and rallied the girls. "Forget the spears," I screamed over the roar of the giant. "Use the rumbles." For the first time, Vespera and the others followed me. We mounted our theropods, our partners with tails held high, and raced toward the shore. We didn't try to kill the Monarchosaurus. We used our speed to draw its attention away from the village elders. We were a swarm of iridescent bees distracting a mountain. Chapter 10. The Song of the Deep Earth. I rode Scales to the edge of the highest sea cliff, the wind whipping my hair. As the Monarchosaurus lunged for the village gate, I leaned forward and whispered, "Now!" I leaped from Scales's shoulders onto the giant's massive, wet snout. I took my thrumppipe and blew into it with every bit of air in my lungs. I didn't blow a sound of war, I blew the song of the deep earth. The vibration traveled through the giant's skull. It stopped. It blinked. The rage left its eyes as it felt the frequency of peace. It rumbled back, a sound that felt like the earth settling, and slowly turned back into the deep blue water. Chapter 11. The New Era of Bron. The Monarchosaurus was gone, and the village of Bron was transformed. My mother walked into the center of the ruins and looked at Scales, who was standing proud with her tail held high. "The age of the spear is over," the queen announced. The spears were melted down to make more balance harnesses. We didn't keep the dinosaurs in pens. They moved into our courtyards. We lived together, the people of the bronze and the giants of the earth. We walked into the future as partners, our heads held high, and our tails, for those of us who had them, perfectly balanced.